A bit fed up with your surroundings? Well, there are worse places you could work. We'll get a rundown of the most difficult hardship postings. We'll also hear from a manager in one of the worst cities in which to work.
Riyadh, Jakarta, Mumbai or Lagos. One of these cities has been named the worst in the world to work in, but which and why? Welcome back to World Business Today. Well, from the world's most expensive cities to the world's worst places to work. Our own long-suffering Andrew Stevens has more, Andrew.
So it's a hardship posting out here in Hong Kong, I can tell you, Charles. But we all fantasise about where our jobs could take us next. Could it be Paris, Bali, Buenos Aires? But there is a flip side to that, the dream location. It's the other set of posting, the jobs that you have to go to somewhere unsafe, remote or even heavily polluted. Now, Business Week magazine has compiled a list of the world's worst places to work. Now, based on research from the consultancy ORC worldwide, the top 5: Lagos in Nigeria, Jakarta in Indonesia, Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, Almaty in Kazakhstan, and bringing up number 5, Mumbai in India. Now, Lagos is faulted for its severe crime and infrastructure problems, as well as poor housing, sanitation and medical facilities. Jakarta suffers from pollution, disease, risk and the threat of Islamic terrorism. Expatriates moving to Riyadh may find the moral and religious restrictions limiting, especially for women, plus the ever-present threat of terrorism there. Almaty made the list because of its physically remote location. And finally, the bustling city of Mumbai, India's financial capital. Mumbai might have a lot of cultural offerings, but it also suffers from nightmare traffic jams, slums, and also, of course, poor security, including the attacks that targeted the business travellers at the Taj and the Oberoi late last year. Well, ORC's most difficult list also includes hotspots like Harare in Zimbabwe, Karachi in Pakistan and Tehran in Iran. Well, Lagos may have been picked as Business Week's worst city in which to work, but do its residents actually agree with that? Well, to tell us his opinion, Roland Ebel joins us live from CNN's bureau in Lagos. He's the managing director for the Nigerian bottlers, which includes Coca-Cola brands. And I'm just hearing, we were talking about problems in cities far and wide. We're having a communication problem. We can't get through to Roland at the moment. Just another one of those things, Charles, you know, when you live in places like this, the comms don't necessarily work either. So let's go back to you for the moment.
OK, well, let's see if we can get back to that interview a bit later. Welcome back from Hong Kong and London. This is World Business Today.
OK, Charles, we're going to try again, if we can, to speak to our man in Lagos. I'm being told I don't think we can do it just now, so we're going to continue to try and get our man, because we do want to find out exactly what it's like living in Lagos, which has been, you'll remember, voted or described as the worst city in which to live. That's by ORC Consulting and Business Week magazine. We'll be getting back to that. Now, I believe, Charles, we can go back to our guest, Roland Ebel. Hopefully you're standing by at our bureau. Yes, you are. I can see you, Roland. Thanks very much for making yourself available. We've been talking about the worst places in the world in which to live, and where you are, Lagos, has been voted the worst. So I want your opinion about living in Lagos. Is it really that bad?
Yes, thanks. Good morning, Andrew. Thanks very much for putting me on the show. No, I've been living in Lagos now for the past 8 years, and I can tell you from the honest truth, it is by far not as bad as everybody makes it out. The city has improved dramatically since the advent of democracy in 1999. And now living in Lagos is now living like in any other big metropolis around the world, like Jakarta or Egypt in Cairo. It's very much the same.
I guess it's one of those relative questions, isn't it? I mean, if you compare it with cities perhaps in Europe, it is going to be pretty bad. But just talking about this survey, they're talking about the levels of crime, the poor housing, the general security and pollution. Just if you can, just for a moment, Roland, what is the most difficult part of living in the city for you? The
most difficult part is actually to find the right place to live. You know, the infrastructure in Lagos and Nigeria in general is very poor. So what you tend to spend a lot of time on is selecting the right house, the right flat, the right compound to live in. A compound which provides you with all the amenities of 24-hour uninterrupted power supply, good water, and some, amenities for the children, for the family.
Now, it sounds to me like you're perhaps one of the lucky ones for expats who perhaps are not at your level of management. It could be a lot more difficult. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are in a very privileged position. For the average Lagosian, obviously fighting the traffic, fighting the daily traffic is one of the key challenges they're facing, as well as, the lack of clean water and the lack of good, decent sanitation. But I think overall, especially very recently, Governor Fashola has made tremendous progress in developing the infrastructure in the city. When you look at the road infrastructure today, it looks, it's uncomparable to what we've had 7 years ago when I came here. Andrew?
Okay, Roland, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us and telling us about your experiences. I must admit, the background behind you doesn't look too bad either. That's Roland Ebel there, who's the Managing Director of Nigerian Bottlers. They bottle Coke in Lagos, in fact, around the country. And Roland, they're saying, hey, it's not that bad a place to live. So straight from the horse's mouth. Well, we'd like to know what you think about this story. Do you live in one of the cities mentioned on this list? Do you disagree that it's a bad place to live? Or are there other places you think should be on that list? I'm sure there are. Email us. We'd love to hear about your experiences, particularly if you're on what you think is a hardship posting. We'll look forward to reading them out on the program over the next couple of days. So, Charles, there you go. Lagos, perhaps, in the eyes of one at least, not as bad as we feared.
Well, he's been there for 8 years, so he's had plenty of time to work out what he likes there anyway. Anyway,